Tonight, 2 North Platte Housing Authority employees are without jobs.
This after the employees say they were fired for reporting a potential applicant with an active warrant for child sex assault. New at 10, 10/11's Adam Uhurnik has a story that may surprise you when you hear all the facts.
Yesterday you were terminated.
Former Housing Authority employees Christopher Hawley and Lori DeMilt say they were fired on Tuesday.
In the interest of protecting the children of our community, Lori and I acted because the director of the Housing Authority would not.
Hawley is referring to a background check ran about 2 weeks ago on a potential tenant. He says it turned out the applicant had an active warrant for sex assault on a child.
Actually, I was worried because 75% of our tenants are a single parent family with children. I have children myself.
So she approached her boss, Executive Director J.D. Bennett, about the background check.
I was asked to shred it, and this would not leave the office.
That same day when Lori called me that evening and told me what had transpired and what she had learned and that the director wasn't going to do anything about it, once I learned about it, I called immediately.
After both employees spoke with me about their concerns, I sat down and spoke with J.D. Bennett myself on Wednesday afternoon.
The way the process works with us is our information, the confidentiality, the privacy of applicants, and the confidentiality of the records we have in our hands is protected by federal law.
I asked her to provide me with proof. She handed me guidelines by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and a list of federal laws. So would you get in trouble if you picked up the phone and called the police and said, hey, I have somebody here who had applied who has an active warrant?
It is absolutely by federal law specifically forbidden, period.
Bennett says there are only a few instances that a director may disclose information even to authorities, and employees below the director position are not allowed to.
We don't do it, period. No level below me will ever do it and survive the doing of it.
And now the former employees say they are weighing their options when it comes to a wrongful termination lawsuit. Reporting in North Platte, Adam Uhurnik, 10/11 News.
Certainly an interesting story. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, it's certainly sparking controversy, no doubt about that.
And we are digging deeper into the North Platte Housing Authority after 2 employees say they were fired for doing the right thing. It's our top story on 10/11 North Platte News at 6:30. Good evening and thanks for watching. I'm Adam Uhurnik.
And I'm Kristen Bauer. Last night we brought you the story of 2 former employees who reported a potential tenant with an active warrant for child sex assault to the police.
Today I followed up after that story and found out the Board of Directors of the North Platte Housing Authority commissioned their legal counsel to study the facts, and they reported to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, the director followed these federal guidelines and policies exactly right. The 2 employees were terminated with cause. Recently, I sat down with the executive director and she tells me she defends her position and wants to take the organization in a positive direction.
We're going to relaunch a reorganized housing authority that has more compassion in the kind of work we do and how we treat people.
North Platte Housing Authority Executive Director J.D. Bennett says that hasn't always been the case.
I would say yes, there are things here that have been below a level in which I think any housing authority with the public's money should have done. We have not served well.
When she took over as director, she saw some red flags. Have you found where employees in the past have humiliated tenants or not? Or have you heard of that?
I've audited files and found things that I didn't find acceptable. We've brought those people in. We've had tenants come in and talk to me about the previous treatment. Some people are afraid to come in here.
But former employees and even some tenants say they've also seen some red flags. They don't agree with how Bennett is running the organization.
I mean, this lady is on a power streak, and she's destroying housing authorities as far as I'm concerned.
Former board member Savannah Sellers is concerned about this most recent issue. She says she would have liked to see more of an investigation done before former employees Chris and Lori lost their jobs for reporting a concern about a background check to law enforcement and the board of directors.
JD should have been relieved of her duties until all this was figured out.
One tenant I spoke with says she has a problem with the organization not telling the authorities about an applicant with a warrant for child sex assault.
When we sign up for these, we're told that you're not supposed to have any types of records or felonies. So as a community, we think of these scattered sites that it should be safe for our children to be around.
But Bennett says she is only following the law regarding applicant information. Information she says she cannot report, and she would not expect any of her employees to break the law either.
Anybody that doesn't fit into that or doesn't follow the rules or compromises or files humiliates people are not going to be employed here. It's as simple as that.
And I reached out to HUD in both Washington, D.C. and Omaha about why those guidelines were made. They said they would get back to me tomorrow. To see yesterday's story on this issue, go to our web channel, 1011np.com. All right, thank you, Megan. To an update now on a story. It's been 2 weeks since 2 North Platte Housing Authority employees lost their jobs for doing what they say was the right thing. They reported a warrant for child sex assault. The director says they overstepped HUD guidelines and federal law, which prohibits them from reporting such information even to police. So we asked HUD about those guidelines. Here's their response. There are instances where there may be conflicts between HUD guidelines and what is morally right. This appears to be one of those rare occasions. In instances like this, we would have hoped that the executive director would have come to us and posed the question. While there are limits to what the Public Housing Authority could have done with the information, HUD may have been able to provide other options. Having said this, we are not going to second guess the decision of the executive director.
I talked to a HUD representative, and he had stated that you err on the side of caution on something like this because there are children at risk, and you need to get these people off the street.
The way these laws are written, there are only 3 or 4 ways I disclose. I don't have the discretion either.
Deputies did end up arresting that person with the active warrant. He never stayed in the housing.